You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 219 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Heward, and as always, I'm with my gorgeous co-host, Mr. Jeff Garkis. How are you, Jeff?
I'm feeling good now. Although, I never like to point out anyone else's stumble on a word as I stumble on a word. But I feel like you stumbled because it was so hard for you to say the gorgeous one that you're I don't know what to say now.
I wanted to emphasize gorgeous. Come on. You guys know you can say gorgeous. You can be like gushing gorgeous because gorgeous, I was describing you how I feel like our guest would be described because I think she's so fabulous and so gorgeous. So I just used the description word I would have used for her for you to kick off the episode. I'm glad that you kind of clarified that because I was really worried that you referring to me as not just gorgeous, but gorgeous would really just destroy your credibility with our listeners who know. That's true.
That's not accurate.
That's true. Well, we were talking about after the episode that I love this guest that we have. So Brittany will be the guest. We'll get to this episode in a second. But I was telling her, I was like, and your photos for her Instagram. I love following her on Instagram and her podcast. I'm like, girl, just tell me who's your photographer because I need it. I need somebody to take new headshots for me, and I'm really a fan of the whole vibe. And she was like, "Oh, it's my 8-year-old." I'm like, shut
up. Which is hilarious. So we actually during the time between we did the interview and we came on to do the intro, Ray actually already hired him. He's already hired.
I'm gonna pay him in Legos.
Legos.
Yep.
I was laughing at the gorgeous thing doesn't make sense. We were talking about the conversation with her also started with us telling her she has a great podcast voice, right?
She does. Is this creepy now? I told her she has a great podcast voice and I told her she was gorgeous. Oh my God, she's going to think I'm her stalker.
It's a little creepy, but to be fair, you've usually very willingly and openly claimed to be a stalker, so it's cool. I tell people all the time you stalk them. So
I do.
I mean, of all the stalkers in the world, at least you're hey, I'm stalking you.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal, guys. You know how there are people who can keep calm, cool, and collected, and then there's people who can't, and they're fans. I'm a fan, and I can't help it, so I'm just going to wear it loud and proud. I'm a fangirl, and I fangirl all the time, and I'm sorry that Brittany's one of them. What am I supposed to do? Just not notice how great she is in every area of her life? Whatever. Sorry, life. It's not happening. Whatever.
Oh, I love it.
Am I done embarrassing myself?
No. I don't know. That's to be seen. We'll see. But we are going to talk about something else before we talk about Brittany again. So we'll get there again. You'll have plenty of opportunity to embarrass yourself again. I wanted to talk to you because so yesterday. So today's a Monday. We record on Mondays. Yesterday was one of our. You do this biweekly family check-in.
Well, the team does it. I just so happen to be the victim of it.
I was gonna note on that. I was gonna say, well, the team does it, but you always do it. So I know the team's we'll do it, Ray, but pretty much you do it, which is how we run most of our team. It's just hey, the team's gonna do this thing, which means Ray's gonna do it.
That's not
no, but I don't know if some people have joined you, but I don't think anyone's ever let it. I think you've always done the biweekly check-in, right?
Typically,
as another source.
Typically, yes. I kind of like it, guys. I know that this isn't what we're talking about, but it's a Sunday evening kind of setting the tone, and that's how we share it with the audience. Guys, join us Sunday night, set the tone for the week. For me, I'm selfishly just using it for that. So every time people are oh, Ray, can I do the biweekly check-in this week? I'm nope, I need it.
It's very much a more cozy up in another chair in Ray's living room with a cup of tea and talk about the week to come. But last night sort of a lot of stuff was going on and we were talking about a lot of questions of, is it wrong to do this? Is it wrong to do this way? Is it wrong that I'm here or wrong that I'm not there or wrong that I'm thinking this? And you obviously in the the Biweekly, you were doing a lot of answering and talking through, but I was wondering if you can kind of hit on that for everyone listening who maybe wasn't in there, or maybe they were and they just get a little extra out of this. Is it wrong to? Because I really like the way you kind of think through that on why it's not.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jeff, because the person who sparked that, it came up as an anonymous comment. And of course, then the person like voxed me 15 times after being like, Ray, I'm sorry, you're right. Like, thank you for talking through that. And I'm like, no, I love that this was brought up. And then like, you know, had that snowball effect of people joining in. But the initial comment that started that conversation was someone saying, is it wrong that I want students to turn in work on time? Is really what it came down to. And it was interesting because we you know, the Biweekly Family Check-In is such an open Q&A, open format. Everyone just throws their questions in the comments and we just all discuss together. And I guess it really hit me last night when the phrasing of this question was, is it wrong that? And I think the struggle that I was having is that I'm getting so many educators, whether it's emails, direct messages, whether it be to the full team, just to me, just to you, Jeff, of educators saying this phrase of like, is it wrong? Is it wrong that I'm scared to go back to school? Is it wrong that I miss my students? Is it wrong that I want things turned in? Is it wrong that I'm not doing mastery learning? Is it wrong that I can only plan a week ahead versus a full unit? And I think my struggle is that, like, guys, please hear this. Nothing's wrong. Like, it's not wrong that you want to be at point C and you're only at point B. It's not wrong that you want something to change and it can't yet change, or it's not wrong that you want something that seems to be scary, or like wrong is not the right word, because the reality is like wherever you're at is wherever you should be. And it doesn't mean that you're not pursuing more. You know, we have this teach better mindset of like better today than you were yesterday, better tomorrow than you were today. It doesn't mean that you're not growing, but gosh, do we have to start giving ourselves, we've been talking about grace, and giving ourselves grace comes in the language that we're using as well. It's not wrong. You're not doing anything wrong that is best for your students and or guys, best for you. Jeff, I know it's silly, but like, you know, I talk about this with Adam Welcome all the time when we wrote the book, Teachers Deserve It. Yep. Teachers Deserve It was kind of like the second book to a popular book that Adam wrote with Todd Neslony called Kids Deserve It. It's very popular. And Adam talks about how like he wrote Kids Deserve It and it was a great book, but nothing is good for kids if it's not also good for the adults that are supporting kids. And so we wrote Teachers Deserve It. We really had this mindset of like, yes, kids deserve the world, but so do teachers. And kids don't deserve the world at the cost of teachers not being mentally safe and healthy. And I just really want, if you've ever this week, last week, next week, wherever you're at, if you ever sit back and say, oh man, is it wrong that at 4:00 I just need to go home and not answer my email? Like, oh gosh, like today, Jeff, before we start recording this podcast, is it wrong that I'm actually just going to sit on my couch for 10 minutes rather than opening up, you know, a responsibility that I should do? It's not wrong. You're not wrong. And I really want to make sure you hear that message, because we are going to continue to do our best. And if you ever think about an entire situation, kind of like the one that we were mentioning last night, the Biweekly Family Check-In, is it wrong that you want kids to turn things in on time? It's not wrong, but let's now dive into what do you need from this situation and what is a battle not worth fighting? And that's kind of where we actually took the conversation. If you want to listen to that, I think we put it up as a bonus episode for the Teach Better Talk podcast. So go listen to that episode. Or we also actually, you can just find it on our YouTube channel at Teach Better Team. But it was a Biweekly Family Check-In from the 18th of October. And it was probably like a 15 to 20 minute discussion we had on, you know, just because we want something, like that's great. Now let's break it apart and really evaluate what's the key components I care about here. What battle do I want to fight? And what are the battles within this that I don't want to choose to fight? And so it just was a really interesting conversation. But anyway, Jeff, sorry, I'm totally ranting, but it's not wrong, people.
Follow-up question.
Uh-oh.
Is it wrong that I want to get you on another like 30-minute rant?
Yes, because we have an entire episode to get to. And trust me, guys, Brittany's better.
So let's talk about Brittany. Brittany Rincon is. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can remember everything she.
You won't because she's everything.
So she's a fourth grade teacher, but she's also the fourth grade team lead. She's a curriculum coordinator. She's like 3 coaches things. She hosts a podcast. She does one-on-one coaching. She's a mom. This woman does so many things. It's incredible.
She's also the mother of an all-star photographer. Just to make sure.
Mother of our latest hire, the all-star photographer. Which we neither one of us asked his name, so we can't. We don't. I don't.
Oh, Lego boy.
Lego boy. So there you go. Sorry for that, Brittany. No, so she's phenomenal. Just recently, her podcast is coming on to the Teach Better Podcast Network, so we're super excited. So this is a lot of fun to be able to flip the mic on one of the podcasts like that. Just a great episode. Super excited to get in. Anything you want us to focus on, Ray, other than the fact that she has an amazing podcast voice and she's awesome in every way, and her son is a fantastic photographer.
And that I really want you guys to all follow her on social media. She's giving away a coaching hour, and I think that of all things that we've given away, like this is something that you should totally grab hold of and try and win. So make sure you pay attention to how to do that.
I love it. Let's get into it. Episode 219 with Brittany Rincon.
We'll be getting right back to this podcast episode, but really quick, I want to give a special shout out to any leaders in schools. If you are a district leader, a school building leader in any capacity, the Teach Better team has a weekly administrative mastermind, which actually welcomes in district leaders from around the world to come together and collaborate. There is no better time than right now to make sure that you are considering all factors and sharing resources with educators around the country and around the world. This is an amazing get-together that happens every single Tuesday. And if you have any sort of leadership role, consider this your invitation. You can get the private link to make sure that you're part of this weekly get-together over at teachbetter.com/mastermind. All right, leaders, we'll see you there, but let's get back to this episode.
All right, we're here and we're chatting with Brittany Rincon. And Brittany, awesome to have you on the podcast. Super excited to have you on here. We got to connect a while back. Now you are, I don't know if it'll be officially on the site or not, but we're going to tell it to our network right now that you're officially going to be, you're on the Teach Better Podcast Network with your podcast. So this is super cool and really exciting to have you on the show here. Looking forward to diving in and learn more about you and your story. But before we get too far in, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. I'm a little nervous because I usually am on the other end of this, so I'm excited.
Well, Brittany, don't be nervous. We are going to have so much fun. I'm so confident you're going to be able to share so much insight because I'm a listener to your podcast. I know you always love to share tips and tricks with educators. So I think you're a natural at this, but I know it's a little weird when we flip the mic on you, but I think you'll be all right. Before we get too far into this, though, I do want to make sure that our listeners kind of get to know you a little bit. So I know Jeff gave you a little bit of an introduction, but we'd really love you to start with kind of like describing yourself. When someone asks you like what you do, how would you normally answer that?
Yeah. So the first thing I always say is I am a fourth grade teacher first. I am still in the classroom, which I love. I love working with kids, but I'm also a fourth grade team leader. So I am in charge of our grade. And I'm also a curriculum coordinator. So I do a couple of different things at my school. I'm also a part of a couple of committees, and I co-lead a small section of our school's strategic plan where I'm creating like a list of norms for educational design, which is really cool. So even though my fourth grade, the fourth grade teacher hat is like my official title, there are a lot of other things that I'm involved with at my school that also makes me a teacher leader. And because of that, I really want to help other teachers kind of explore leadership without necessarily leaving the classroom. So I like to help teachers kind of think about what are some ways that they can explore this without an official title, kind of dip their toe, especially if kind of like going back to school and being an administrator is like not in the cards for them.
So I think the better question would be, what don't you do? Well, you just kept listing them off there. Because you also have a podcast and you and you do a lot of coaching and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit about everything you have going on there with the Teacher Leader podcast and your one-on-one coaching and everything that you offer to folks there?
Yeah. So I started the Teacher Leader podcast actually during COVID because I had just finished grad school and I loved teacher leadership. It was like what I was studying and doing, and I had all of this like drive and passion. And then once school was over, I was realizing that a lot of teachers have no idea that that teacher leadership exists outside of being an administrator. They hear the word leadership and they automatically assume educational leadership. And it's like, oh yeah, going back to school and becoming a principal. And I'm like, no. There's so many other things that you could do besides that, and getting involved and really figuring out like what works best for you. Because a lot of teachers that I talk to are leaders. They are doing this work day in and day out. But when I ask them about it, they're like, no, I'm not a leader, or I'm not a teacher leader. I'm just a classroom teacher. And I really wanted to talk to more teachers and really have them understand that no, they are a leader no matter what their title is. And here are all of the other ways that you can extend your impact and your reach outside of your classroom, whether it's online or whether it's in person, and really kind of, supporting these teachers and working with them one-on-one as well.
So then is your coaching, it's all around that. It's helping them find the leader within them, the things that they're already doing that show that they are the leaders. Is that what you're working with one-on-one with individuals?
Yes. So I have been talking to different teachers, and it's like, well, what is it that you would like to do? Or what is something that you're already doing well? And then I've been helping them kind of develop those things. I've also been helping teachers just like finding their voice and figuring out what kind of message that they want to share. And I've been helping a couple of teachers like start a podcast if that's what they want to do. Or I've been helping some teachers write emails to their principal asking them for more responsibilities. So it's definitely been an individualized approach, but I've really loved working with teachers and kind of helping them along that journey.
That's super cool. Really important work. And we're actually going to give away someone who's listening a free one-on-one coaching call with you, but we're going to do that a little bit later. Make them listen for a little bit here. So I want to flip to this. One of my favorite questions is when we talk about failure and learning, what we can learn from our mistakes and from the challenges that we face. So can you share a story with us about a time that you've had a failure? Let us know what happened. How did you overcome that? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah. So when I first became a teacher leader, I took over the 4th grade, after our old leader retired. She retired. And it was one of our very first meetings that I had to run. And I was so like calm and cool, thinking, oh, I know all of the people on my team. We've been working together for years. This is going to be totally easy. We're friends. We hang out, no sweat. So I go into the meeting totally unprepared, thinking that it's just going to, I'm going to let them know, here are the things we have to do. It's going to be fine. It was not fine. The conversation just like went to the side. We didn't hit any of the points that we needed to hit. And I realized that even though I knew everyone, we were still in a coworker kind of situation. And I had a really hard time taking on that leader hat. It was really challenging. And I was struggling to kind of figure out, how am I still their coworker, but also slightly their boss in certain situations? And again, not in every situation, but when we were having these meetings, like, how do I do that? So I learned a lot from that experience, and it definitely forced me to develop my leadership skills. And again, these are skills that no one really teaches you. No one's teaching you, here's how to be a teacher leader, and here are the ways to work with teachers. So that was something that I had to figure out on my own, and I was able to do more research, and I talked to people that I work with that were in similar positions. And, it has been way more successful since those first few meetings. Now I'm able to kind of steer the conversation a little bit better, and I'm learning what type of leader I am and like how to still make sure everyone's voice is heard, but also still getting through the agenda. So that was a fun failure for me.
It sounds like it. Would you mind, could we pull out maybe one of those skills, those traits that you figured out that you needed to learn that no one ever taught you, and how you sort of worked on that with yourself?
Yeah. So like one of the things that was really challenging was making sure, like I said a little earlier though, but making sure I heard from every single person and making sure that they felt heard, but also kind of like squashing if we weren't all on the same page. So like being able to make sure everybody felt respected, heard, their opinion listened to. But at the end of the day, when we left this meeting and we made a decision, that we were all on the same page, even if it wasn't something that you agreed with. And that was a skill that definitely took a long time. I'm still working on it, to be very honest. But it was something that I realized when I first really took on some more leadership in my school.
Love that. So let's flip it now. Let's talk about a successful moment you had. And this could be something big or something small, but tell us what happened. Why was it a success for you? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah. So one of the successes that I've had, more recently, it's kind of come to fruition, but I started working with one of the teachers that I work with one-on-one, and she had just entered grad school, and she's not in my department. She's in teach fourth grade. We are on like complete opposite ends of the building, and we don't actually really, work together often, but we started talking about grad school, and she wanted some help with her dissertation and like classes. And, that was the first time that I worked with a teacher one-on-one, and we would meet after school. And that really like sparked an interest for me. And when I realized that I loved coaching and I loved working with teachers, and I say it was more recent because she just graduated. So it was like a really big moment. It was like we both graduated. I was so happy for her, and we celebrated together. But I always tell her, like, you're the reason why I realized that this was something that I wanted to do, and where my passion kind of like first sparked.
Oh, it's so exciting. I love those moments. It gives you all the feels. You know what I mean?
I definitely had them. There were like light bulbs and electric sparks going everywhere. I was like, this is it.
Oh, I love it. You're clearly doing so many different things. I know you share a lot of this on your podcast, and just through the work you do, I can only imagine that you have so many stories. But, education is really challenging. And as people continue on in education, especially right now in 2020, and as we continue to just persevere with the students in our classroom, I really want to know, what keeps you excited about education? What's keeping you fueling your fire? Keeping you excited about everything you're doing?
Well, there's definitely no dull moments going on right now. It is definitely chaotic, but it's very all hands on deck. And because of that, a lot of these walls that kind of surround our job descriptions and our positions are really coming down. And teachers are stepping up and finding solutions and helping one another. And I've never seen more collaboration in my school than I am seeing right now. Everyone is really, coming up to the plate and supporting one another, because we know that we're all in the same boat and we're all kind of struggling right now. And I think our community is just going to become even stronger after this. I'm starting to meet more teachers, on the online space than I was really before. And I'm really excited to see all the new leadership roles that come out of COVID and all of this that's happening right now. Because I think there's going to be a lot of roles for teachers that didn't exist prior to this.
Ooh, interesting perspective. No, I think that's very cool. And obviously goes along with the work that you're sharing that you love. So I think that's really exciting. It makes sense. So with everything that you continue to do, right? I mean, with coaching and everything else, I'm sure it's going to be really tricky to find one piece of advice. But question 5 always asks our guests to share one piece of advice. And this might be a piece of advice you give to a new teacher, or, any educator living and breathing right now that wants to maybe be, continue to push themselves in their field and reach all their learners. What's the one piece of advice you want to share with them?
Definitely. So I think whenever we want to help another teacher, the first thing we want to do is reflect on our own practice. So one piece of advice that I have is just keep records or a journal of your journey, because, that those first year, 2, or even 3, definitely for me, were just such a blur. They went by so fast. The days were agonizing and long, but the years just went by quickly. And I kind of almost don't even remember what it was like as a brand new teacher. So I like to tell teachers to keep a log of it and kind of jot down what were some of your successes, what were some of your struggles, because one day you're going to be a mentor for another teacher, and you're going to be so grateful that you documented your experience and you're able to kind of give them a little bit of a path during their first few years, because it's always just so quick. It goes by so fast, and you're like, what happened? And then you're like, year 2 is here. I got this. And then you're like, wait a minute, what did I do last year? And so it's always great to have those notes.
That's some good advice there. So let's before we jump into the 6 questions really fast, let's go ahead and give away this free one-on-one coaching call with you. Can you give us like the 30-second, like what is that coaching call? Like what am I expecting when I get on the phone or video with you? What is going to happen?
Yeah. So basically, if you are thinking about stepping into some type of leadership, maybe you're not sure of it, you're still in the classroom, you're like, what could be my next step? Administration might not be the next step for you, or it might, but you're not sure yet. And you want to see how you can get involved in your school, whether it's joining a committee or whether it's, starting some type of after school program or working with teachers one-on-one as a mentor. I would love to help you and guide you along that journey and give you a little bit of advice, push you along, encourage you, because that's really the number one thing that I do is I provide a lot of support and encouragement and talk about all of your options.
All right. So if you want to win this free one-on-one call with Brittany, you're going to tweet out. Make sure you tweet at Teach Better Team and at Britt, Britt Rincon, and use that hashtag Teach Better. Let us know. I want to keep it a little easier. Just tell us what leadership means to you. How's that? Does that work, Brittany?
I love that. Nice and simple.
Get that, put that out. We're going to pick one randomly, someone who tweets that out, and you're going to connect with Brittany and rock and roll there. So I want to ask a question just out of pure curiosity for myself. We said at the beginning that you just recently joined the Teach Better podcast network. I'd love to know why that is. Like, what made you say, like, yeah, like, this makes sense? I mean, it's just because Josh is just such a, like, cool dude? Or is it because you're just trying to find another way to be connected to Ray? Or is it because I tricked you somehow?
Well, you definitely had a big hand in it.
My trickery. I get it.
No, I actually really enjoyed the other podcasts that are also in the network. Like, I love your podcast, but I also love the combination of, like, leadership and all of these other ways because, I'm not really seeing a lot of podcasts that are really geared towards like my specific audience, like the teachers that I'm trying to talk to, because either teachers are not sure if they want to be a leader. So they're not really like necessarily looking for, what I'm trying to kind of my message and what I'm trying to share. So I really love that a lot of your podcasts were geared towards that.
I love it. That's awesome. You can check that out at teachbetter.com/podcast. So let's do this. Let's do the next 6 questions. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
Yes, no pressure. I'm ready.
No pressure at all. All right, so here we go. What is one EdTech tool you cannot live without?
Jamboard. I'm all about it. I have it with my Apple, iPad, and my pencil, and it's my favorite thing right now.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
So I'm reading Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, which everyone always talks about, and I feel like I never get the references, so it is on my my shelf right now.
You got a second one on there?
Yes, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Ooh, Tim Ferriss.
Yes, I'm reading it right now. Again, I've heard a lot of great things, and it's like on my Audible right now. So when I'm in the car and I'm driving, it's like what I'm listening to.
Does he do his own, or is it someone else reading that? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Because he's fun to listen to. So who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
Yes. So Dr. Angela Draper, she's amazing. She is the virtual principal. She was actually on my podcast, so I really enjoyed getting to know her, and she's phenomenal. She has great tips for principals. And then Gretchen Bridgers at Always a Lesson. She's phenomenal as well. She talks to a lot of teacher leaders, so we like kind of have a lot of the same ideas. And Vanessa Crowan at the Empowered Teaching Podcast. I love watching all of her like TikToks, and she posts them on Instagram. And they're just so entertaining for me.
Give us a good YouTube channel, website, or podcast for educators to check out.
Yeah, I recently stumbled upon the Everything Education podcast. So it's like two high school teachers, and they run that podcast. And it's great because it's really like well-rounded. They talk about like running a business as a teacher. And they also talk about how to handle things going on right now and like working with teachers. So I just feel like it's really well-rounded. They talk a lot about professional development. And I always find something new when I kind of peruse some of their older episodes as well.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Yeah. So one thing I love is actually, I'm not a morning person, so I do not do morning routines, but I love a great end of week wrap up. So every Friday, what I do is I kind of like wrap up my week. I stay a tiny bit later because I know I don't have to wake up early the next day. and I like tie up on my loose ends so that when I come in on Monday, it's like a fresh start and I don't have like a pile of stuff waiting for me. And that always makes me like sleep better on the weekend too.
I love that. You don't have to worry about it. You're all set up, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Finally, best piece of advice you've ever received.
Okay, so this one's kind of funny, but when I was in grad school, my professor told me that B's get degrees, and I held on to that. And it really helped me like push through. And not only do B's get degrees, but so do C's. And at that point, I was a little less worried about my GPA, and I really just needed to finish. And it was like our mantra in my group. Like that's all we would kind of like text each other whenever we would when we were stressed out. We'd be like, don't worry, B's get degrees. You're going to make it. And it really helped me. Best piece of advice I've had in the last couple of years.
I'm willing to bet that your principal, your superintendent and no one else on the board or anything like that can tell you what your grade point average was anyway. So
exactly.
It's spot on. I love that.
I like it. B's get degrees is focusing on not only like reducing your anxiety, like you don't need to be perfect, but also allows you to not focus on the grade and just focus on learning the content, being successful. Like that I love that. That would be great to just cool your mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I need it on a t-shirt. Like it got me through.
Ugh, so good. Well, Brittany, I want to make sure that all of our listeners not only go subscribe and rate and review your podcast, because I just want to like say caveat. I feel like we don't talk about this enough, but for all of you listening, if you enjoy podcasts, choosing to subscribe and rate and review actually really helps that podcast gain other listeners. It like expands the reach. So go check out Brittany, go check out her podcast. And if you check out a few episodes and you like it, which we think you will, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review, because that will be really, really wonderful for all of her listeners and hopefully future listeners coming up. But then I also, Brittany, they have to connect with you. I really want them to follow you on Twitter and Instagram and everything else. So would you mind kind of sharing how people can stay connected?
Yes. So one of the best places to find me is on Instagram. I am at Teacher Leader Coach, which I feel like totally fits what I have going on right now. And on Twitter, I am at Britt with 2 T's, Rincon, which is my name. And I also have a website, which I recently finished, so I'm super proud of it. And that's just my name, BrittanyRincon.com. So yeah, those are like the best places to find me.
And you can find all the links and all the resources, everything we mentioned in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as those really important links for connecting with Brittany. So head over there to the show notes for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators and share this podcast with them. Brittany, this was awesome. So happy to have you on. So pumped to have you as part of the Teach Better family coming into the podcast network, and super excited to continue just learning and growing with you. Thanks for taking some time and hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. All my nerves are gone. This was awesome.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.
Hey!